My name is Russ Belville. I'm also known as Radical Russ on the air. I host the Russ Belville Show, which is the world's only live, daily, 2-hour talk radio program by, for, and about the cannabis community. I was looking around TV. I saw a golf channel. I saw a speed channel. It wasn't even about meth. And I figured, gosh, we should have a channel. So that's what I've started up. If you want to catch it, it's on the internet, radicalruss.com, every day at 2 o'clock Mountain. Repeats every 3 hours. So if you want to get the knowledge, you want to know what's going on in this movement, that's the way you're going to find it out. Now, coming here to Idaho, I got to admit, I was born in Nampa. Anybody from Nampa out here? Nampa people? We're my homies, my bulldogs in the house. So I was originally born, raised in Nampa, Idaho, and I lived here in Boise for most of my adult life. And I moved to Portland, Oregon in 2003 because my wife is a medical user of cannabis, and I'm a recreational user of cannabis, been using since 1990. But I've been getting away with it. I've been in Idaho. I was in Idaho for, 13 years, smoking marijuana, and never had a problem with it, never had a problem with the police, never had an issue. So I was pretty cool with it. But once my wife became a medical patient, once I recognized that cannabis was a medicine that was going to help her, and once I realized that she was so naive about this prohibition that she was likely to get me busted, I figured time to move to Oregon. So we moved to Oregon. My wife's a medical marijuana patient. And I have this little card here. This is my Oregon State Caregiver's card. And thanks to this card in the state of Oregon, I'm legally entitled to have on my person 24 ounces of marijuana. That's 1.5 pounds. There are 50,000 other people in my state just like me who have these cards that allow them to have 1.5 pounds of marijuana. And guess what happened? Trains still run on time. People still go to work. Kids still go to school. Sky didn't fall. Now I know you're trying to get a medical initiative going here in Idaho, and it's a tough road to hoe. I totally understand. And I wanted to give you an idea how tough a row this is to hoe, because when I come back here to the state of Idaho, I'm scared. First of all, I'd like to thank my friends from the law enforcement community to my left here for not arresting me today. Because as of this moment, right this minute, I am a criminal in the state of Idaho. Not because I'm holding, guys. I'm not holding, don't worry. I'm not that stupid. I smoke pot. I'm not an idiot. But under Idaho state law, intoxication or being under the influence of marijuana in a public place is a misdemeanor deserving of 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. Now, how do they define that you're under the influence of marijuana? Why, a good old-fashioned pee test, which for me, folks, is going to come up positive even if I stop smoking pot for a month, which I'm not going to do. So right now, with the inactive, mind you, inactive, non-impairing, not a drug, metabolites in my pee, those guys could take me away for 6 months, put me in a cage. Do you think that's right? No. When I come to Idaho, I like to save a little money by staying with friends. You know, couch surfing. You all done that, right? Don't let the suit fool you. I like to go couch surfing, stay with my friends. My friends are marijuana smokers as well. By merely going to their house and being in that house, I have committed a misdemeanor worthy of 3 months in jail and a $300 fine. Idaho State Code against the law to be in a premises where marijuana is being stored, manufactured, or used, even if you never see it, even if you never smoke it, even if you didn't know your friend had any marijuana in the house. If the cops come by that night, find marijuana, and find you, 3 months, $300. Does that sound right to you? No. Let me give you another stat. Let me give you another stat that ought to scare you. According to the FBI's Uniform Crime Report and the Idaho State Police's Uniform Crime Reports for the year 2010, 54% of violent crimes in the state of Idaho got cleared. That means out of all the crimes for violence that they know about, they made arrests 54% of the time. For all of these sexual crimes, sexual assaults, rapes, pedophilia, etc., that they know have gone on, arrests are made in 25% of those cases. But apparently we have plenty of time to bust potheads smoking a little weed. Does that sound right to you? I know something that will sound right to you. Happy 420. Now, when I'm in Seattle at the HOPEfest, when I'm in Portland at the HempStock, when I'm in Madison, Wisconsin at the Great Midwest Harvest Fest, when I'm in Boston, Massachusetts at the Boston Freedom Rally, and we say Happy 420, a cloud of smoke rises from the crowd. Yeah. Now we can't do that here yet. No. I say yet. So since we can't do that, I'm going to say 420, and instead of that cloud of smoke rising above the park, we're going to make it our voices rising above the park and tell the people in the Capitol over there, I know it's Sunday, they're not there, but it's symbology, you deal with it, that we want it legalized. So I'm going to say 420, you're going to say legalized. 420! Legalize! 420! Legalize! 420! Legalize! Now, this is kind of scary to a lot of people in Idaho. I know maybe if the news channels are reporting on this or whatever, they got all frightened because, oh my God, they're talking about weed. But think about how this is impacting everyone in this state, even if you don't smoke weed. If we pull over a kid, if the cops pull over some college kid and they find a baggie of weed, that cop is off the streets for 2 hours taking that kid in for processing, get his fingerprints, get his record, get his mugshot. A mugshot, by the way, which goes up on Google and is searchable for the rest of your life. Try getting a job after that. And that cop's off the streets for 2 hours while drunk drivers are going by. And when they take that baggie of weed, they got to take it to the police crime lab because they can't just say you had a baggie of weed. They got to prove that it was a baggie of weed. So they got to take it in for expensive chemical analysis at the crime lab while rape kits are sitting on the shelf waiting to be tested. But they have to go with the weed baggie first because these crimes got to be moved. They got to be prosecuted. There's somebody coming in. They're filling up the dockets. We got to move, 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 move. So it affects our very safety here in the state of Idaho. For any 1 minute wasted trying to go after someone smoking a weed or growing a houseplant. Are you with me on that? Yeah. That's right. It's a total waste of time. Furthermore, in the state of Idaho, just so you know the law here, possession of 3 ounces of or less is a misdemeanor. By the way, you actually have it better here in Idaho than Oregon. Did you know that? In the state of Oregon, possession of up to 1 ounce is a ticket. Over an ounce is a felony. You guys can have 2 and 3 ounces and still be a misdemeanor. In Oregon, 2 or 3 ounces, we're a felony. Huh. Oregon's the only state where it goes from a ticket at 28 grams to a felony at 29 grams. Oh, unless you're sick, then you can have 680 grams. It doesn't make any sense to me. So as you're working here in Idaho and trying to pass the laws, understand that it's going to be frightening to come out, wear a pot leaf belt buckle, or try to tell people that you're for this, because I know what happens. People give you that look. Idaho is a very religious place. People think moral thoughts about what you're doing. It's immoral. It's wrong. So I'm going to give you some tips here before I go on how you can talk to people in Idaho about this, because I had to for many, many years. How many out here got a redneck brother-in-law? You know the type. Doesn't have to be your brother-in-law, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Good old boy. Works with his hands. Doesn't like damn hippies. Damn hippies trying to legalize that damn wacky tobacco. You know the type, right? I got one like that. I got a brother-in-law who's like that. Very, very conservative, very anti-anything me. Okay, very conservative. So when I talked to him the other day about marijuana legalization and what's going on in Oregon, we're trying to legalize up there, he went off on his rant, oh, damn hippies smoking weed all day, causing nothing but problems. I said, Uncle Dan, you really hate those hippies, don't you? Yeah, goddamn hippies, don't like them hippies. I said, well, Dan, why do you let them live a tax-free lifestyle then? What? Well, Dan, every day you got to get up and go to work. You got to punch a clock. They take payroll taxes out. You go to the store, get yourself a 6-pack or a 12-pack. They take taxes out for that just so you can go home and get a buzz on. Meanwhile, hippie wakes up at noon, loads up a bowl, heads down to the dead show, slings a few bags tax-free, works maybe 2-3 hours a day, makes a living off it, doesn't have to pay a dime in taxes. Don't you think the thing the hippie would hate the most is taxing him and forcing him to get a job? The only way that happens is if marijuana's legal, Dan. He didn't talk much after that. Kind of stuck him. If you meet people, Judge Gray talked about this, you meet people that are rural, that are farmers out there. Don't even talk to them about weed. Don't even talk to them about pot. Talk to them about hemp. Talk to them about industrial hemp. This cap on my head is 100% hemp. I'm literally a pothead. 100% hemp, and I wear it all the time, and I get conversations all the time. And one of the things that people ask me is they go, hey, man, where can I get one of those hats, man? I want to have one of those 100% hemp hats. That's really cool, man. I said, I'm sorry, I can't get you one no more. The company I used to get them from in Beaverton, Oregon, doesn't get them anymore because the company that used to make them in New York City doesn't make them anymore because hemp is too expensive to import. They can't make a profit on it anymore because they have to get it from China or Canada or Belgium or France or Britain or Belarus or most of the former Soviet republics or most of the European Union or Australia or New Zealand. In fact, every country on earth that's an industrialized democracy has industrial hemp and illegal pot except America. For some reason, the cops in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Britain, Europe, all the cops everywhere else can tell the difference between a long, tall, reedy hemp plant and a short, fat, bushy pot plant. Apparently, our cops are too uneducated to figure that out. So talk to the farmers about hemp. Say, hey, how would you like to plant a crop where you didn't have to use a whole lot of water on it, didn't have to use a whole lot of pesticides on it, had a really deep taproot, would revitalize the soil, re-energize the soil, be a perfect rotational crop. If you're growing corn one year, grow hemp the next year, grow wheat the next year, whatever. Perfect rotational crop, good for the soil, good for the environment, brings down our carbon dioxide emissions naturally, produces a food and an energy source. You can squeeze the oil out of a hemp seed, get gasoline out of it, and still eat the rest of the hemp seed, and take the buds and make medicine out of it, and take the stalks and make a building material out of it that is carbon negative without smoking a damn thing. Hemp being illegal is the stupidest part of the drug war in the world. The Drug Enforcement Administration declares hemp illegal, and it's not a drug. Ridiculous, right? If you've got friends out there, and I know you're going to have a few here in Idaho, maybe family members, maybe older folks who are a bit religious. They have a religious aspect to this. I always ask them just a couple questions. Number one, could you read Genesis 1:29 for me? For the Lord God gave upon the earth all of the herb-bearing seed, and for you it shall be used as meat, which in the context means you can eat it, you can use it, it's yours. I always ask religious people, God's supposed to be omnipotent and perfect and everything. Why did he put pot all over the place? Damn, I put pot all over the place. Now I'm going to have to make Republicans. Ask them that, right? Why? And here's another question to ask your religious friend. Who would Jesus imprison? Jesus caught a pothead. Would he put him in the county jail, or would he put him in the state prison? Well, no, Jesus would never. Exactly. There is no more compassionate act that I could think would be a more Christian act than to turn to someone like Lindsay Reinhardt with multiple sclerosis and say, here, God made this for you, try this. This might help.
Yes.
Now, all these are great arguments. The religious argument, the hemp argument, medical marijuana argument, they're all great arguments. But when it really comes down to it, people are selfish, self-centered, and they want to know what's in it for me. What's in it for me, man? And that's where the economic arguments come in. That's where you start talking about how much money that could be made, how much money we are spending on all of these arrests and prosecutions. And something the drug warriors will do, I've been finding this out a lot lately, is they've been minimizing it a lot lately. When I go and debate cops and go debate drug warriors and policy wonks, they all go, well, there's not really a lot of people in prison for marijuana. We don't really go looking for people. If they are in prison, mind you, they're pleading down from something bigger. Right, we don't really go after marijuana. To which I always say, oh, well, cool, so it's not that big a deal, right? We might as well just legalize it, right? If it's not that big a deal, you're not really going after anybody. But the fact is, they really are going after people. I have two friends named Dr. Molly Fry and Dale Schaefer. Dr. Molly Fry is a cancer survivor, single mastectomy, breast cancer, who is in California growing medical marijuana as part of a legal collective, working with her city, the city of Cool, California. Brought in the city council and said, hey, look at our medical garden. Are we cool? Is everything all right? They said, yeah. They brought the sheriffs over. Is our garden cool? We okay? Are we following the law? Yeah, everything's all right. Her husband, Dale Schaefer, an attorney, he's a hemophiliac. So they're both using it medically. They're both only getting the medicine to the people who are seriously medical marijuana patients. Because I know some people think, oh yeah, some of you are medical and some of you are medical. We're talking real medical, MS, cancer, AIDS, helping these people out. You know what happened to them? The cops, the DEA, worked with that county sheriff that was telling them everything was okay. Meanwhile, that county sheriff was taking down evidence of how many plants they were growing. And because the federal government has a 100 plant limit, they want to get you with more than 100 plants so that they can trip a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years in federal prison with no hope for parole. In order to get to that 100 plants, they counted their gardens from 3 straight years. They never grew, or like, no, 5 straight years. They never grew more than 20 plants at a time. But the cop said, well, you grew 20 this time, 20 this time, 21 that time, 22 that time, and 18 that time. And 5-year statute of limitations, that's 100 plants. They're in federal prison right now. 5 years. Both have lost their licenses. She's a doctor, he's a lawyer. They'll never be able to work again. They've been bankrupted through their court trials trying to keep whatever they could. They've lost their home. They've lost everything. 5 years. A breast cancer survivor and a hemophiliac in the state of California, ladies and gentlemen. So this is serious. This is real. This is really impacting people every day. And then they'll try to minimize it as well. They'll say something to the effect of, well, you know, in Oregon especially, because we have decrim, right? It's just a ticket. You can get an ounce or less. But here they might try the same thing. It's only a misdemeanor. You're not really going to go to jail. First time offense. You plead down. We'll give you probation. No big deal. Yes, it will be a big deal. Number one, you're going to go to jail at least for the time it takes to get you fingerprinted and get your pictures taken. You're going to have to bail out. That's going to cost you some money. Everybody's going to see your mugshot up on Google when they go look around the Ada County Sheriff's Office mugshot sites. You're going to be known as the druggie around work or school. You're going to, if you get convicted of that, you got a drug conviction on your record. For the rest of your life, when you apply for jobs, you got to check a little box that says, I am a drug convict. Try passing the interview after that. You're going to face probation where you're going to have to pee in a cup. And if you turn up positive in that pee test, you're going back to jail probably longer than you would have gone in the first place. And by the way, the science of pee testing is an oxymoron. There is no science to it. It's all bullshit. You can pee positive after smoking marijuana up to 7 days after you smoke marijuana, and that's if you're an infrequent consumer. If you're a frequent consumer and say a little bit on the hefty side like me, you're going to pee positive for at least a month. And my colleague Paul Armentano at Normal one time worked with a woman in Los Angeles court who was on probation, pee tested negative 9 times in a row, came up positive on the 10th. And they said, oh, she must have smoked again. No, she didn't. She never smoked again. The way marijuana is released from your system is so inconsistent and irregular, you could pee negative many times and then pee positive even if you never smoked again. So if you're on probation for that little marijuana misdemeanor and you just pee positive and you say, but officer, I swear I haven't smoked anything, they don't believe you and you're going back to prison. So yeah, maybe not a whole bunch of people are in prison for pot, but a whole lots of lives are ruined over it. A whole lots of scholarships are lost over it. Jobs are lost over it. Child custody is lost over it. People's houses are taken away. Broken up families happen over this. Over a plant. Over a bud. And remember, we all know the facts about marijuana, right? Never killed anybody. Been used since 2689 BC with not a recorded death. Right? And at an event like this, if this were a beer fest, you could bet there'd be more than 2 or 3 cops running around. We go to Seattle HOPEfest every year. They have 150,000 people 3 days in a row in a 1.6 mile park. And every time we go there, we ask the cops, would you rather do HOPEfest or rather do a Seahawks game at Quest Field? And they laugh. They laugh at us. Are you kidding? Drunks over there at Quest Field? That'd be awful. HOPEfest, not a fight, not an arrest, not a problem. Because marijuana users are peaceful people like you who just want to follow the laws and be legal. We want to be legal. That's the thing that blows my mind when we talk to people who are against marijuana legalization. Criminals, you darn criminals. No, we don't want to be criminals. We don't do anything else criminal. We don't do anything else criminal but smoke weed. And for a lot of us, I was an alcoholic before I started smoking weed. That went away once I started smoking weed, by the way. All we want is the same respect and rights as a beer drinker or a cigar smoker. We're not asking for a lot. In fact, we'd even start off with less. I'd take less rights. I'd take it if they would say, okay, you can only buy an ounce and you can only smoke it at home. Okay, great. Great, let's start there.
Exactly.
Let's start there. That's fine. Then we'll work it up to 2 ounces. Then we'll work it up to 5 ounces. Then we'll work it up to I can go to smoke in the park at a special event, whatever. But let's at least stop arresting me in my house or walking down the street just because I got weed on me. Now, it's tough going through this fight because one of the problems of marijuana prohibition and being illegal and doing this activism is we're invisible. Very few groups have to deal with this. When the NAACP makes some point about racism in America, anybody can look out who's black and go, yeah, tell me about it. Or if they're white, they can go, yeah, I've seen it. I have black friends. I know what's going on. I have Mexican friends. I know what's going on. But in an issue like marijuana prohibition, how many of your friends or family that are outside of your close circle know that you're a pot smoker? How many of your coworkers know that you're a pot smoker? Maybe some of us, because we're kind of out and proud, right? But for most pot smokers, they can't. They can't be out and proud. When people out there in the mainstream think of the marijuana legalization movement, they think tie-dyes and hippies and patchouli and body piercings and tattoos and all that, which I love. I'm a big fan. But they never realize that when they're looking at that, they are looking at an iceberg and they are only seeing the tip. Those few people with either nothing to lose or the freedom of spirit to express themselves. They don't see underneath the surface the plumbers, the teachers, the cops, the lawyers, the doctors, the parents, the grandparents, the people like you and me who smoke marijuana, but we can't talk about it. We can't be open about it. We don't want the people at work to know we smoke pot. Oh my God, they might pop us for a random. We can't let our families know in some cases, oh my God, they won't invite me back for Thanksgiving. So we end up being this invisible minority. There is a lesson to be learned here from our friends in the gay and lesbian community, because they had the same problem. Most people who are gay or lesbian, you don't know. You know some. Some people are pretty out and proud, you can tell. But most people who are gay, you don't know. How did they make strides in America? By being out and proud, by telling people who they were, and by standing up and saying, you can't treat us like this anymore. Now, you can hate us, you can not like us, but we're humans with rights, and you cannot mistreat us, and that goes for cannabis consumers as well. We are a people. Sometimes when I talk about this issue, I express it as a civil rights issue, and people think, oh, Russ, it's not like civil rights. It's not like being black or being gay or something, or being a woman or something. Well, no, because you don't choose to be black, gay, or female, right? But I believe that once you embrace cannabis and you become a fairly regular cannabis consumer, and given the fact that its metabolites stay in your system for so long, and think about that. Why does our body hold on to cannabis for so long but kicks out meth, coke, and all the others real quick? Think about that. But the fact that it stays in our system for so long, and the fact that we are treated this way as a class, makes us a people, makes us a cannabis community, makes us a nation that has to stand up for our rights. Your rights are never given freely. They must be taken from the oppressor people, and you're doing it right now just by being here. Give yourself a hand. And to illustrate this phenomenon, there was a poll that was taken in Minnesota in 2007. They were trying to get medical marijuana in Minnesota. So they asked the people, they did a Gallup poll, or I don't know, Rasmussen, whatever. They did a poll and they said, do you support medical marijuana? 3 out of 4 people said, yeah, I support medical marijuana in Minnesota. Then they asked a second question. Do you think your neighbor supports medical marijuana? 3 out of 4 people said no. That's how brainwashed we are into thinking that half of our friends and neighbors believe something they don't believe. 3 out of 4 people are on our side with medical marijuana, but we only think 25% are on our side. We got to change that, and we're changing it right now. Here's something that will help you change this perception in your very own mind. How many pot smokers are there? How many? In America, how many do you think there are? 100 million? 15, 20, 30? All right, let me give you the real numbers. This is the U.S. government's own numbers from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, where a telephone pollster representing the federal government gets on the phone, asks anonymous strangers whether or not they've broken state and federal law, so the numbers may be a little low. But here is the stats. In the United States of America, the 2011 NSDUH just came out. According to the federal government, 103.5 million Americans of voting age, 18 and older, have smoked marijuana in their lifetime. Are you one of them? That's 43.5% of the U.S. population. Here's another way to think of it. 4 out of 9 people in America have smoked pot. 4 out of 9. We only got to convince that 1 to get us to 5 out of 9. 4 out of 9 have smoked pot in this country. And when you look at the demographics, below the age of 50, it's over 50% have smoked marijuana in their lifetime. Or as I like to say it, when you meet someone under the age of 50, flip a coin. Heads, they've smoked pot. Tails, they know someone who did. So they can't claim ignorance anymore. But you know that thing, you know, annual lifetime, or like lifetime smokers, that counts Bill Clinton, right? That counts, I inhaled, I did not inhale, I didn't try it again, I never liked it, right? That counts the guy who smoked it in college and quit and thinks it's immature, right? So maybe that's not a good number for how many pot smokers are, because really, I wouldn't call Barack Obama these days a pot smoker, although he did smoke pot in his lifetime and probably wouldn't be president if he got caught for it. So how many annual pot smokers? How many people smoke pot every year in the United States of America? Any ideas? Guesses?
50 million.
11%. 11% of people aged 18 and older have smoked pot. That's 26.1 million pot smokers. That's more tokers than the population of Texas. You know how they say don't mess with Texas? Don't mess with tokers. 26.1 million people, 11% of the population, or another way to say it, 1 out of 9 people in America will smoke pot this year. Are you one of those 1 out of 9? Hell yeah. But you know, maybe once a year, maybe that's not even really the pot smokers, because that could be the guy that smokes at his class reunion once and then doesn't ever do it. I mean, how about the real pot smokers? The every month pot smokers. The 420 crowd. My people. How many of us are there out there? 6.8% of the United States voting age population, 18 and older. 6.8%. That represents 16.1 million pot smokers in the United States of America. 16.1. That is more than the population of the entire Pacific Northwest, people, that smoke pot in America this month. Or another way to say it, 1 out of every 15 people you meet smokes pot. 1 out of 15. Are you one of the 1 out of 15? Yeah. And just to show off, how many daily pot smokers are there? Every day, my people, daily pot smokers. Daily criminals. All right, we're not criminals, we're outlaws. There's a technical difference. Daily pot smokers in the United States of America, 2.6 million daily pot smokers. Twice the population of this entire state smokes pot every damn day. Are they criminals?
No!
Do they belong in a cage?
No!
Should we waste police time on them?
No!
So what do we do about it?
Legalize!
420! 420! 420! I've talked enough. Thanks, everybody. I'm Radical Russ. Check me out, radicalruss.com. And support Compassionate Idaho, Idaho Normal, Idaho Choice Act, everything. Support it all. Your support means more than anything you can imagine. You don't have money, give your time. You don't have time, give your contacts. Tweet, email. Don't shut up about this. The only way we win is when we're talking about it. When we're talking, we're winning. Keep talking. Radical.